Hey, how's it going? Today I'm going to walk through my ambient patch that I have built on my HX Stomp. We're going to go through it on HX Edit here, just block by block. You'll have heard a kind of a demo in the intro, but I'll go through what I'm kind of thinking and how I'm thinking of using it in terms of playing with each block I go through here on HX Stomp. So I'll start with the amp. It's a US double vibrato, some sort of Fender Twin model that I've got going here. I'm using my Washburn WP80 Les Paul Custom. It's got EMGs in it, an 81 and 85 I think. I'm using the middle position, actually sounds really nice. Those are the settings. I think I changed some of the, I might have cranked the master volume and turned down the drive and the channel volume just to keep it as clean as I can. The cab is the exact same, I didn't touch the cab at all. Now, the overdrive I'm using is the Scream 808. These are the settings I have on it. I don't really remember if I touched them much from loading them up, but I've just got the gain at 0.6, the tone at 6.5, and the level at 7.5. There's a fair amount of drive on that, but when you start adding reverb and delay and all that kind of thing for an ambient sound, I actually like having a little bit of crunch on it to kind of help give some attack and kind of weight back to the actual original guitar signal. So that's what that's for. That's width, that's without. Next I've got a compressor. My logic with this is I have a volume pedal block as well just after the compressor here. My logic with putting the compressor in front of the volume pedal is like slide guitar players or lap steel players. A lot of those you'll see they'll put a compressor in front of a volume pedal. It helps to even out things going into the volume pedal, get those swells kind of a bit more consistent. So this is the deluxe compressor. I don't really have a preference for guitar compressors going into an amplifier. I haven't used them terribly much if I'm honest. This to me sounds good. It's kind of harsh, but again, this just helps strengthen anything going into the volume pedal. You hear it just helps lift the sustain at the very end of each note. That's kind of what we're going for. So if you just pick a single note and use the volume pedal to swell in, you're kind of getting more of each note for what you're playing. Next, as I say, we've got the volume pedal. Change that to a logarithmic curve just for kind of a smoother action. The linear mode I find is a little too, well, linear. It's kind of more on or off. There's very little in-between sounds on the actual sweep of the pedal. So logarithmic kind of changes that. It changes it to a logarithmic curve. If you remember your maths, things feel a little bit more like there's more room even between the two extremes. There's far more room in the middle there for nuances, which is nice. So now when we've got the volume pedal going, you're not getting the attack from the compressor, but you're getting the sustain at the end. That's what we're looking for. And the same with the drive, you're not getting so much bark and bite from the distortion in the attack of each note. You're just getting that lovely sustain, that kind of sizzle in the sustain, which is what we want. In this patch I'm using the snapshots, so I have one delay per kind of setting. This one I'm using here is the Euclidean delay. This was brought out in the latest update, the 3.11 I think it's what I'm using here. This is a cool rhythmic delay. You can get some really cool sounds out of it. Dotted eighth, because Dilate is nice and rhythmic, it's really easy to get rhythmic with. I'm not using any feedback because of how this particular delay behaves. If you wanted a more traditional ambient sound, you might use maybe the Adriatic delay, or you know, any of the vintage digital, any of the tape, any of those, they'll give you a more traditional analog tape sound. I'm not going for that. I want crystal clean repeats, or at least I want the ability to be able to EQ them as well. That's how we're working here with this Euclidean delay. It's got these steps, so you then fill in as many of the steps as you want. I've got 4 steps and I have 3 of them filled in. Those 4 steps, and when I'm only filling 3 of them, there's a gap of 1. So that rotate 1 is where in the sequence of 4 you put that gap, or at least that's my understanding of the delay so far. So what you'll hear is when I pick the note, you'll hear 1 repeat blank and then 2 repeats after it. If I move the rotate function, then the gap is right behind my initial note, and then you've got the repeats after that. That's how I've got the steps filled at the moment. Play around with it yourself. It's a really interesting delay, it's really fun. So I have the mix set at 40%, low cut is at 118 Hz, and the high cut is at 16.8 kilohertz. And I've got the levels set the same. I'm going to turn on the trails, I don't know why they were off. As I say, no feedback, so you've just got those sequences. And then it's done. You can add that and you'll get your kind of more typical delay thing where it fades out. You hear those echoes then at the end. We kind of get that effect from the reverb we're about to add, so I'm going to turn that back off for just a second. Now the reverb I'm using is the dynamic hall reverb. This was just brought in, as I say, in that latest update, 3.11 update. I'm really a fan of this new dynamic hall reverb because I feel like it's a lot more usable for ambient sounds than some of the older delays that were in the HX Stomp. The delays were never bad, but a lot of them focused on modulation, I found, and I'm personally not really into that. This has a, you know, it has motion and a kind of a modulation section in it, but that's more just to kind of emulate the sound of moving air in a room, as opposed to adding a chorus or a phaser or a shimmer sound to your reverb. How I have it set at the moment is at a 9.6 second decay, pre-delay of 4 milliseconds. That just kind of adds some depth, helps give the feeling of a bigger room, say. Even though we have a room part here, a room parameter here, you know, 10 meters, 20 meters, 30 meters, pre-delay can kind of help emulate the actual sound of a sound source in a room, taking that time to bounce off of a surface and come back. Diffusion is set at 43%. This is a really powerful control. The two of those together really help to tailor the sound of this reverb overall. You can make it sound really artificial and really like a kind of a plugin, almost like some of the Valhalla plugins where it's really bright and there's a lot of motion going on in the background. Or you can get a kind of darker sounding and get that kind of more typical ambient guitar sound. I've got the diffusion at 53% and the dampening at 11.5 kilohertz. Mix is at 49%. Motion control is somewhere around, you know, 2.8, 2.9. Low frequency 100 Hertz. There's no gain plus or minus on the low frequencies. There's a low cut 117 Hertz and a high cut 6.3 kilohertz. No level and trails are on, and this is how it sounds. I really like that because it's not too dark and it's not too bright, and while it goes on for quite a while, it's still not too much, so you can still build on top of it and play on top of it. I feel like there's plenty of space there to actually keep playing while that's trailing out. And this is how it sounds then with the delay. compressor after each note, but not so much that you can't keep playing. That's what I'm kind of going for, where you can do a single line kind of root and melody kind of thing, or you can play something a little bit more involved and it's still gonna work. It's not gonna get too crazy. It's still gonna sound nice and atmospheric. Now if we jump over to the glitch delay, with that 3.11 update, they're after bringing out some more intervals on the glitch delay here, which I think are really cool. You're able to change the intervals that you're using. It used to be just octaves, whereas now you can actually punch in a fifth, a third, a sixth, whatever it is that you want. At the moment I just have it set here for an octave up and an octave down. I don't have anything too crazy I think going on. I don't have too much shuffle going on here. You can get kind of crazy with this in terms of it can kind of run away from you when you start to use some shuffling and things like that, which can be really cool. I have a little bit of drift on the sequence, so it'll stutter a little bit. We want the reverb to kind of talk to the delay. We want the trails of the delay and the trails of the reverb to kind of do their own thing. We don't want one getting out of hand on the other. So this is the glitch delay then. Okay, so that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of that patch covered. If you do try this, play around with settings and post up and let me know how you get on below. I'd be interested in knowing if you found some kind of cool modifications or tweaks or different kind of settings that I should check out. Definitely let me know in the comments below. All going according to plan, this patch and the previous patch I built on my other HX Stomp video should be available to get on my website. Check them out, download them, and let me know how you get on. If you do any modifications, if you do any tweaks, if you think I missed anything, let me know in the comments down below. I'd be really interested in hearing. And if you make any music with them as well, post up. I'd be really interested in hearing that too. If you found this video helpful, and if you do end up liking the patch, hopefully, give this video a like and subscribe to the channel as well. I can do more things like this. That's something I'd be interested in doing. That really helps the growth of the channel too, which is something I kind of want to get on top of now. Other than that, thanks for watching.